Donald Trump confirmed rumors on Friday, naming Indiana Governor Mike Pence as his vice presidential running mate. It was also announced that the U.S. Senate candidate Darrell Glenn will have a prime speaking opportunity at next week's RNC convention. Meanwhile, an effort by some Colorado delegates to change the rules to allow another nominee failed on Thursday. Patty, we have Pence, Glenn, failed rules. Take your pick.
Well, the Pence delayed and back on announcement was probably just the first of the many things we're going to see because of the problems in Nice. Imagine the security at the Republican National Convention and what they're doing to ramp it up right now. So Trump had taken away the big, elaborate announcement he was going to make and then decided because it leaked so much. Not a big surprise. Interesting, though, that he didn't take Gingrich, who I think would have been maybe added something to the ticket. I don't think Pence does a lot for him right now. As for Darrell Glenn speaking, you know, a up-and-coming black politician from Colorado, it's not going to hurt, but the Colorado options weren't all that plentiful because many of our Colorado representatives are only going for maybe a day or two. I think Ken Buck is the only one who is going to be there through the whole convention. Some are avoiding it altogether. So it's going to be fascinating theater, political theater, but it's almost impossible to imagine how the Republican Party is going to emerge and what it's going to look like after that convention.
I completely agree. I mean, even just the rumors of Tim Tebow. I mean, the random Colorado connections that really entertained me yesterday.
Tim Tebow's
because
not going to be there.
He won't be there. Yeah, Tim Tebow will not be there. That was just a rumor. Probably disappointing dozens of people. No, I'm sure there's probably a lot of people who actually want to hear Tim Tebow speak, but you hear the Colorado delegation, only, like you said, only two showing up. I think only Ken Buck staying the entire time. The reaction should be interesting. David, what do you make of what we've seen so far from the Colorado delegation and that Darrell Glenn is 4 months ago outside of El Paso County? I'm not sure many people could have known who he was. And 4 months later, he might be speaking near or in prime time at the RNC convention. That's huge.
Well, Tim Tebow is a man with a lot of strong moral convictions, and he's not running for office. So very wise for him not to be associated with a man of no moral convictions. The running mate choice for both Hillary and Donald is important because of we've never had a pair of candidates so likely to end their presidency by being impeached because of their fundamentally lawless nature. So Mike Pence would be a good replacement for Donald Trump as president. In fact, if the Republicans had any common sense, which obviously they don't, they would nominate him and he would defeat Hillary in a landslide. You can be against Pence for all the reasons you're against Republicans in general or conservative Republicans, but he's a normal human being, not a psychopathic narcissist, which puts him ahead of the two front runners. I think it's a good move for Darrell Glenn because Michael Bennet, A, has only 38% of the Coloradans believe he deserves to be reelected, which is unusually low and a high vulnerability thing. But Glenn needs lots of money, and Bennet has a huge fundraising advantage. This is Glenn's chance to go out and give a great speech, become a national star, just like Barack Obama did at the 2004 Democratic Convention when he was just a state senator running for U.S. Senate.
Penn, is this an epic opportunity for Darrell Glenn? What do you think?
It is, but the thing to remember is President Obama made his sort of foray into the public consciousness 4 years before he ran for the presidency. So he was first seen on center stage, then it was later that he ran for office. Darrell Glenn doesn't have that opportunity. He's got to make a showing, and then he's got to run and win, and it's a tight situation for him. And I think, you know, the Republican Party is doing the right thing by highlighting him because they want to keep control of the Senate. They need to take that seat just because of some of the other seats that are up. And Darrell Glenn probably didn't even poll well in Colorado. Most people don't know who he is, so it can't hurt him to be on national TV. There's another interesting thing when you look at all of this from my perspective, and I won't go quite as far as David went, but I will say that I think Donald Trump's been real clear. He wants to run the world. I would say rule the world, but that may be a little bit strong. But he clearly wants to run the world. He wants to run the world from the Oval Office. And so, you know, the selection of Pence is his effort to tell sort of the standard bearers in the Republican Party, hey, I may be nuts, but I'm your nut. And look, at least I will hire well. I got a guy who's going to be my number two, so if something happens to me, you'll at least be comfortable with him. And this is an indication that when I'm there, I'm not going to hire all lunatics, and you know, I'll ramp it back a little bit. I'll hire some, as David says, real human beings to, you know, occupy cabinet positions and do this sort of thing. So he's trying to credential himself. But the fundamental problem that we're seeing with the RNC convention, it is, Patty's right, it's going to be fascinating, but our own delegation shows you this, with only Ken Buck going for the whole time and Cory Gardner is going for like a day or two. Every other Republican is trying to find some place where they want to meet with constituents at a coffee shop somewhere in the state, someplace they've probably never been before. But the conundrum is this. The Republican Party probably wants to run the world with Donald Trump, but the problem is they know they can't do it with him. So do you take that approach, or do you take the Paul Ryan approach, which is show up on TV, say, this is our guy, pray that he loses so that you can run for president in 4 years?
And when you look at what Colorado has been in this election so far, for just on the Republican side of things, the delegates that tried failed miserably, but tried to change the rules of the convention were from Colorado. The Colorado Republicans at the state convention all went with Ted Cruz. It's still a thorn in Donald Trump's side since he was here last week. Are Colorado Republicans going to pay a price for that during this campaign if Donald Trump is at the top of the ticket and at least helping to organize some of the money and some of the efforts?
Well, I make no mistake about it. I think that his selection of Mike Pence as his running mate gives a strong indication that Colorado is not going to be a factor in Donald Trump's plan to win the presidency this year. He went with what is actually probably a good idea. He wanted somebody from a Midwestern state, a Republican official who can appeal more to that blue-collar populist side of his campaign. And by doing so, he kind of set out, look, I'm going for Indiana, I'm going for Ohio, I'm going for Wisconsin. I may not be going for Colorado at this point. I mean, this is clearly, I mean, when he was in town at the Western Conservative Summit the other week, he actually said, I'm going to spend a lot of time in Illinois, which somebody had to choke on at the RNC when they heard that. But it tells you that he's going for these Rust Belt union blue-collar states, and Colorado is way outside of his playbook right now. Now, the question about Mike Pence is an interesting one. I see optically exactly why he chose a Midwestern governor, but I think it really speaks to the weakness of this campaign that the governor he chose is Mike Pence. Anybody else in the Republican Party who would have had their pick of anyone to run with them would have gone with Scott Walker or possibly with John Kasich, who spent the last 7 months running for vice president, essentially. But those two wouldn't be seen anywhere near Donald Trump at this point. And so he basically got a third-tier candidate in his plan to win the Midwest at this point. And I think essentially says goodbye to Colorado at this point. As you see polls putting him down 7 to 13 points, I think he's going to focus elsewhere.